Now we start in the Middle East, where US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has departed Qatar for London after his stop in Doha, where he met Qatar's leader Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani to ask the Gulf country to stay on as a mediator in Gaza talks. This visit came as a week after Israel launched a strike in Qatar targeting leaders of Hamas. Earlier, Rubio had said in a joint presser with Netanyahu that the United States is going to encourage Qatar to play a constructive role in mediating the conflict in Gaza. During his visit to Israel, Rubio said that the United States backs Israel in its goal to eradicate Hamas. He said that Washington will provide unwavering support to Israel in achieving its goal in the Gaza Strip. After completing his visit, Rubio also said that there is a very short window of time for a deal to be struck between Israel and Hamas. He has said that the deal should end with Hamas demilitarizing and releasing all Israeli hostages. We're now joined by Dan Perry. He is a world affairs analyst and he joins us live from Tel Aviv in Israel. Thank you very much, Dan, for joining us here on the program. Dan, what are your thoughts of the words of Marco Rubio here, backing Qatar very much to stay as the mediator in this conflict, even after it was bombed by the IDF, and also, of course, after a direct visit and a direct meeting with Netanyahu, and just after Qatar condemned the strikes from the Israeli government?
To go back to business as usual, or at least a status quo ante last missile strike, and they continue to remain unclear about whether the U.S. really knew or didn't know, approved or didn't approve, is really offended or is not offended. It remains completely unclear, and many of us are highly skeptical that Israel would have struck Qatar with a missile had the U.S. not approved, even though the U.S. claims otherwise right now. You would think if the U.S. were telling the truth about how Israel caught them by surprise, then Netanyahu would have been in for a lot of criticism by Rubio when it came to Israel, but that did not come to pass. What did come to pass is the U.S. forcing Netanyahu to sort of, knees bent, schoolboy in the corner, say it was all my idea and I did it on my own. But that was it. That's it. And there's no price to be paid for Israel as far as I can tell. Nor is Israel particularly damaged by the result of the conference in Doha on Sunday and especially yesterday, which was a summit where all of Israel's Arab allies joined Qatar in condemning the action and making threats like that it threatens the future of peace and things like that, but nothing particularly concrete. So it sort of looks like Israel got away with it for the moment. I could be wrong, but
Dan,
that's what appears to be the case.
Dan, do you mind if apologies for interrupting you just a second. Let's talk a bit about the Qatar's role and, of course, the US's role. They're both mediators in this conflict. However, Rubio just declared unwavering support for Israel. Qatar says it's going to carry on as a mediator in this conflict. Is there a way forward for diplomacy with mediators like this?
Well, the U.S. is not, but both are kind of mediators, but both are implicated because, the U.S. is obviously a staunch ally of Israel and an implacable enemy of Hamas, as I believe is most of the planet, to various degrees, whether they admit it or not. Qatar, meanwhile, it has been a patron of Hamas and has been a funder of the larger Muslim Brotherhood movement that is at loggerheads with much of the Sunni Arab world and is considered a terrorist organization in Egypt. So we're talking about implicated parties that nonetheless want to play a constructive role. And I do believe at this point, the question on everyone's mind, including Qatar, is how to bring about a situation where Hamas does in effect surrender and does in effect disarm. This may surprise some viewers, but Qatar joined the Arab League in the New York Declaration from July, calling on Hamas to disarm. And if Hamas did agree to disarm and hand over the Strip to another government, they would not only be doing what is undoubtedly the will of the overwhelming majority of the Gazan people, but they would end the war. Now, I have been highly critical of Israel's insistence on continuing the war because I do not think Hamas is going to do any such thing, and I think there are better ways to compel that outcome. But the outcome is desired by everyone, and especially and surprisingly, given the history, Qatar. So we have a complex and delicate situation here, where the Gaza Strip is being held hostage by what is now a fairly small group of truly engaged terrorists with a lot of insurgents that they've recruited who are like 15 or 16 years old in the past 2 years to replace their fighters who've been killed.
Yes, Dan Perry, do stay with us. We have further updates from the region, where the United Nations Human Rights Chief, Volker Turk,